the moment the car door closes and Lila is secured in her car seat. I demand. All right. We're in the car. Now tell me what's going on, Celine. Donovan sighs. I'm sorry if we got your hoped up, but we haven't heard from Bastien. But I object, replaying our conversation in the hospital over in my head. Aiden said. The orders were coming directly from him. We didn't know you'd gone back to Dr. Kane. Donovan explains gravely. Bastien told us before he left that he doesn't want you anywhere near the man. Now, tell her why. Drake instructs grumpily. Honestly, how do you expect her to know she's supposed to stay away from people if you don't tell her? Bastien told her when he was here. Aiden argues. Bastien wanted to switch doctors because Thomas helped me hide my first pregnancy from him. I remind him, that was his problem, not mine. That isn't the reason. Donovan informs me grimly. I'm sorry, Celine, but there's a chance that Thomas is actually the one behind all of our troubles here. What? I exclaim. What are you talking about? I listen in horror as they explain, all the clues pointing to Dr. Kane, glancing at Lila every 5 seconds to make sure she's not listening to our conversation. Luckily, my pup is too preoccupied watching the world fly by out the window to focus on boring grown-up talk. You're saying that Thomas might not be Thomas at all. I summarize when they're finished. You're saying he might be Frederick, and every time I've thought he's helping me, I trail off, unable to finish such a horrible thought. That's exactly what we're saying, Aiden admits, which is why the first thing we're doing when we get home is having another doctor come by to check on you. If we're right, I wouldn't put it past Thomas to have been making you sick so that you'd be nearby and at his mercy. One more horrible piece clicks into place as I consider this possibility. Those. I was about to say assassins, but I remember Lila just before the word leaves my tongue. Bastien's welcoming committee at the Calypso border, I say instead. They said Frederick wanted me for himself? Yes. Donovan and Aiden say in unison, well, that would fit. Drake interjects, clearly on the same page that I am, because Dr. Kane definitely has a thing for her. Oh God. And he could have been monitoring the baby in case it's a boy. I realize horror slicing through me when I realize how easy it would have been for him to induce a miscarriage if that happened. 1,000 tiny clues are falling into place the more I think about it. It was always possible that Frederick set his sights on me without us ever meeting. But it makes a lot more sense that it happened after multiple interactions. It's okay, Celine, Drake assures me, squeezing my hand. We got you away in time. You're safe now. I can't believe Bastien didn't tell me. I whisper, feeling a rush of anger towards my mate, followed immediately by the sorrow of wishing he was here. Even if it's only so I can yell at him, I'd never have gone back to him if I'd known. He was trying to protect you. Drake reminds me, sounding as if he understands only too well. I'm sure he's thinking of Sophie now. As a mother, I know better than anyone how tempting it can be to withhold information to spare the one you love pain or fear. But now that I've experienced being on the other side of things so completely, I vow never to do the same to Lila or my new pup. Within reason, of course. Do yourself and your mate a favor. I advise my friend. Respect Sophie enough to face her problems head on. It will help you both in the long run. L20. Placebos. The doctor assesses, studying each of the pills Dr. Kane prescribed me in turn, all of them. My heart sinks. It seems Donovan and Aiden were right. The reason I wasn't getting any better is because none of the medicines Thomas gave me were actually capable of helping. I've been taking sugar pills from day one, so it's not wonder I ended up in such bad shape. Who prescribed these to you? My new physician, a woman named Dr. Lee, inquires. Dr. Kane. I share sadly. Her eyes widen almost imperceptibly. The chief of medicine? Yes. Donovan confirms. We're handling the situation, and I'm afraid we must require that you not repeat any of this to anyone else, including the medical board. If that's your preference. Dr. Lee nods with a heavy sigh. All right, Celine. I think you and I should take a few minutes alone so you can catch me up on your case history, and I can examine you. In the meantime, one of your faithful guardians here can go get a new prescription filled so we can have you feeling better ASAP. She clears the men from the room. And for the first time, I appreciate just how much difference a female doctor can make. Talking to her is so different from talking to Dr. Kane, especially when I tell her that Bastien is away indefinitely. That must be very difficult. She commiserates. But have no fear. We'll take good care of you so that you're in tip-top shape when he returns. No judgment, no prying questions, only support. Thank you. I breathe. I have to admit doing this alone again has been really stressful. I believe it. Dr. Lee agrees. But you aren't alone, Celine. I know it isn't the same as having your mate here. But you have a wonderful circle of people here to support you, and now that includes me, Dr. Lee. My hormones have me on the verge of tears. I'm so grateful for the woman I could hug her. Where have you been all my life, Frederick? The bastards took her. They actually took Celine out of the hospital against my explicit orders. It can only mean one thing. They finally figured out the truth, and that means I don't have any reason to continue pretending. It's time I come out of hiding. The pack is in complete disarray, especially after the news about my mother's escape broke. One more disaster, and no glowing press conference in the world will be able to erase the damage. I won't mind at all if Celine keeps trying, of course. After all, the more the pack loves her, the better it will be for me when I finally take over. Having the former alpha's mate in my corner will diffuse any criticism about a hostile takeover. Of course, I'll have to make sure she knows she can't get away with this kind of disobedience in the future. I'm sure it never would have happened if it weren't for that pack of idiots. Bastien left guarding her. Celine is too sweet, too biddable to ever act out on her own. No. The only reason she dared to defy my orders was because they enabled her. I'm sure she'll see how wrong that was when I explain it to her. Of course, now that my access to her has been cut off, I'm going to be out of the loop. I'll have to think of some other way to get close to her. It would really be best if I can get rid of the Betas and Drake Kavanaugh. Maybe my next scheme can kill two birds with one stone. Killing them should be easy enough. But how can I make sure Celine isn't also harmed when one of them is almost always with her? And how can I arrange it so that Celine won't see me as an enemy once the dust has settled? It would also be best if I can make Bastien look worse in the process. My assassins may have failed, but he hasn't returned home yet either. And the more trouble I can cause while he's away, the better. I pace my office as I go through my options. Then all at once it hits me. A kidnap. I can hire someone to take Celine, Lila, and Drake's little mate. In fact, she's the one who's inspired my plan. Her own failed kidnapping attempt is exactly what I need. Only this time, it won't be the kidnapper who doesn't survive the ransom meeting. I can draw all the Betas and Kavanaugh to the meetup. Maybe I can even get Odette to attend as well. She's another obstacle I don't need. They'll gather like fish in a barrel, perfectly primed for me to pick off one by one, and Bastien remaining absent when his mate's kidnapping and a mass murder of his loved ones is splashed through the headlines. They'll never forgive him. Once the others are dead, I can swoop in and rescue the girls, winning over Celine and the pack all at once. It's perfect. I'm amazed at the difference one little pill can make. I feel like a completely different person now that I've thrown out Dr. Kane's, if that's truly his name, placebos. Dr. Lee's medicines have reduced my morning sickness, so much that the condition actually lives up to its name and only strikes in the morning. I've even put on a pound. It's only been 3 days since leaving the hospital, and I couldn't be happier to be home, even though everything else in my life is a bloody disaster. I keep trying to call Bastien every morning, but he never picks up. The line never even rings. It goes straight to voicemail. In addition to my mate's absence and my pup's continuous questions about where her daddy is, the pack is all in an uproar. Apparently, while I was stuck in the hospital, Aiden and Donovan captured Odile, then immediately lost her. The worst part is that I think Frederick leaked the story himself, because almost no one knew she's been caught. Her escape included a blackout and riot at the enforcement headquarters, and as much as I'd like to explain this away the same way I handled Bastien's absence, the truth is that we did fail. Whether it's sabotage or not, we're failing to protect the pack and keep the peace. Frederick is winning, and I can't stand it. Still, today I'm going to try and forget all the drama and sadness. Sophie and I are going to take Lila to the zoo for a much-needed day out. My poor pup has been such a trooper throughout all these crises and changes, and she desperately deserves a reward. Mommy, I wanna walk, she informs me as we walk towards the zoo entrance. But I want to carry you, I reply, snuggling her close and kissing her cheek 6 times. I haven't had any time with my Lila Bean lately. I've missed you. But Mommy, I's the zoo, she replies, as if I'm completely missing the point. I wanna run round. Fine, I sigh dramatically. You can walk, but don't run too far ahead, okay? I instruct. Okay. She agrees. Lila, I mean it. Stay within sight. I say more stern now. I pumise. She vows, already squirming to escape the comforting safety of my arms. I set her little paws on the ground, and she immediately races ahead. Rolling my eyes, I link arms with Sophie. This is how it begins. I sigh. First, she doesn't want to be carried. Next, she's going to be too embarrassed to be seen with me in public. Sophie laughs. I think that's still a few years away. Besides, when that day does come, you'll still have the new baby to comfort you. Until it grows up too, I complain, only half joking. Damned pregnancy hormones. I haven't even given birth yet, and I'm already in a snit that my baby will grow up too fast. So just keep having babies, Sophie suggests. That way there will always be a young pup to cuddle, spoken like a woman who's never been pregnant. I snort, instantly regretting my words when I see the look on the other woman's face. Oh, Sophie, I'm sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. That's such an assumption and such a cruel thing. Relax, Celine. She interrupts me. It's all right. You're exactly right. I've never been pregnant until a few weeks ago. I was a virgin. Really? I inquire, undeniably curious, while simultaneously reluctant to think about Drake in that capacity. And? Sophie giggles and flushes. It's been amazing. She intones shyly. But I think Drake is ready for a family and babies and all the rest, and I'm just trying to get my feet under me, you know? Typical alpha. I sigh. I swear men would never be so eager to become fathers if they had to do the hard part. It's not even that he's pressuring me, Sophie admits. I can just sense that he's holding back that side of himself. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I tell her. I know it probably doesn't feel great, but you said yourself that you aren't ready. It's better he understands and gives you time than forces you into it. I know. But he's pretending he's totally satisfied. And I know he isn't. She shares. I mean, it's his instinct to father pups now that he's marked me. I hate that he's hurting for my sake. Have you talked to him about this? I prod gently, knowing full well my shy friend hasn't. No, she confesses. I'm not good with conflict. I'm not either. I sympathize. But being with Bastien helped me learn that not all disagreements are disasters. This is still all very new to you, and I understand exactly what you're going through, but promise it gets better. Thanks, Celine. Sophie smiles, appearing truly relieved. Any time. I promise. Keeping my eyes locked on my pup as we pass through the entrance gates. It's crowded today, and for a moment a young family moves into my line of sight, blocking Lila from view. I quicken my pace, trying and failing to see through their bodies to my little girl. They shift back out of the way after a few seconds, and Lila reappears, skipping along happily and heading straight for the giant anteater exhibit up ahead. Exhaling, I turn to Sophie. I'm sorry, Soph, but I'm going to lose it if we don't keep up with her. No problem, she allows, speeding up beside me. I only looked away for 1 second. But this time, when I return my attention to the spot where Lila was standing a moment ago, she's gone. Pure, undiluted terror fills me so quickly it defies belief. Lila? I call, glancing around in worry. Sophie, do you see her? I'm sure she's here somewhere. The she-wolf says calmly, scanning the area. Her brow crinkles in concern when she can't lay eyes on the pup either. She's probably hiding, Lila. I dash through the crowd to the exhibit, my eyes darting over every surface, every shifter present. She's nowhere to be found. The shifters around us are pointing and whispering to each other, clearly recognizing me, but I ignore them. I have my baby's scent locked into my senses, and I follow it away from the melee. Lila. I call again, tracking her determinedly and praying she's misbehaving rather than in trouble. Lila Bean, where are you? My heart sinks when I hear a muffled cry. But my protective instincts take over, and I sprint in that direction, Sophie hot on my heels. We round the corner, finding what appears to be a supply shed, and storm inside without a second thought. The door shuts behind us, and I clock a hulking bear shifter in my periphery. But I can't give him a moment of my time. Directly in front of me, a strange man is holding my pup hostage, and pure maternal rage is pulsing through me like a wildfire. Take your hands off my pup, this instant! I snarl, my hackles raised. Calm down, sweetheart. The shifter croons. No one's going to hurt you or your pup. We're just going to take a little field trip. We're not going anywhere. I inform him harshly, speaking over Sophie's whimpers. You have until the count of 3 to release my daughter, or you'll be sorry. The men laugh. Don't worry, Celine. We're not going to separate you. He comes forward and hands Lila to me. We're all going to go. Isn't that right, Jimmy? The man behind us pulls out a length of rope, brandishing it in our direction. That's right, he agrees, offering us a stomach-curdling smile, quickly checking over Lila, who looks scared and confused, but otherwise unharmed. My worry fades, replaced by rage. Sophie, get down, I command, holding Lila close and willing the power I'm drawing up from my internal, well, not to harm anyone but the men seeking to abduct us. You hear that, Ed? The man called Jimmy scoffs. It almost sounds like the little wolf intends to fight. You might be surprised, I announce, sending out a wave of pure electricity the moment Sophie ducks out of the way. I'm really sick of people trying to kidnap me. As the would-be kidnappers hit the floor, Drake, Donovan, and Aiden smash through the door behind us. I don't know how they knew we were in trouble, but I'm proud to have dealt with things myself. For once I'm not a damsel in distress. This time I defended myself and my baby all on my own, and now they know what I'm truly capable of. Not good with conflict, my ass. Sophie exclaims, even as Drake is practically strip-searching her to ensure she's not injured. That was amazing. Shooting a smug look to the betas. I ask, still think it's too dangerous for me to learn to use my powers. We're getting you a teacher. Aiden decides, first thing tomorrow. You can't be serious. I drawl, crossing my arms over my chest and glaring at Drake. What? He counters in exasperation. She's a powerful witch. Why wouldn't you seek her help? because she'll never work with me without knowing the source of my power. I exclaim. After the almost kidnapping at the zoo, the betas placed Lila and I on lockdown, while Drake holds Sophie up in his rooms and presumably showed her how grateful he is that she's safe. Every time I've seen either of them since, they've been wearing dopey lovesick smiles, and Sophie's been wearing long sleeves and long pants that tell me she's trying to hide more than a few hickeys and love bites. On the other hand, the betas were true to their promise and immediately began searching for a teacher to help me with my powers. After everything calmed down, we learned they got a last-minute tip-off from one of the original kidnappers who got fired a few hours before the job began and wanted revenge against his former colleagues. So in all likelihood, the guys would have arrived in time to rescue us. But thankfully they recognized the value of training me anyway. Now Drake has located a revered witch in the oldest part of the city. But he brought me to meet her without first finding out whether she's even willing to take on a student. Simply tell her you're a Valana. She doesn't have to know you hold the key to eternal life in your veins. He states matter-of-factly. Could we please not advertise that? I exclaim, encouraging him to lower his voice. Oh, come on, no one's listening. He assures me, now stop being silly and go introduce yourself. Grumbling under my breath, I cross the distance to the stately townhouse and prepare to knock on the door. I turn back to look at Drake one last time before raising my hand, receiving an encouraging nod in reply. However, before I can actually knock, the door swings open, revealing an elegant woman with coils of shiny silver hair piled atop her head and loose flowing clothes. She blinks when she sees me. Well, I have to say you've surprised me. I was expecting a new student, but I never imagined it would be the Alpha's mate. I glance hesitantly at Drake again. You knew I was coming. I'm a witch, darling. That is why you're here, isn't it? She questions, stepping to the side and sweeping her arm wide to welcome me into her home. Well, yes. But I don't know how to explain. You've never met a real witch, have you? Little mother, she surmises, nodding at Drake so he'll join us in the house. Number, I admit. And I'm not one myself. Well, that's obvious enough, dear. She remarks with a rueful smile. You're not my first student to come from another walk of life. She's circling me now, studying me closely, and even poking at my arms, shoulders, and hip experimentally. I don't have the first clue what she's doing, but she stops in front of my after 3 slow circuits, staring at me curiously. Though I suspect you will be my last student, or last one who isn't a witch. Drake clarifies uneasily. Last student. She replies unemotionally, hopping ahead to the next subject, as if she hasn't just made a thoroughly ominous remark about her own fate. I've seen magic like yours before, but never this strong. Wrapping my arms around myself protectively, I ask, can you help me learn to wield it? I would not have been home for your visit today if I did not intend on teaching you, silly girl. She chuckles, gazing at my two-tone eyes and making me feel as if she can see right through me. My grandmother told me stories about Valana wolves when I was a girl, though even she did not know the secrets of your blood. I see now. We've been underestimating your kind's true power. How do you see that? I question, more curious than unsettled. The woman laughs again. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You shifters are never taught how to truly look at the world. There is so much you do not see, simply because you do not open your eyes. I don't really understand what she's talking about. And I can see that Drake doesn't either. Shaking off some of my nerves, I extend my hand to her. I'm Celine, by the way. I offer inanely, quickly amending myself. I mean, I know you recognize me, but we haven't truly been introduced. Helene. She introduces herself, but instead of shaking my hand, she uses it to pull me forward. When she was young, I imagine she must have been much taller than me. She still has a few inches on me, but her spine is bent and curved with age. She turns my chin right and left in her hand. Pretty thing, she says to herself, an observation rather than a compliment. Her brow furrows then, and she tsks regretfully. And to have survived so much darkness. I confess I've never met another like you. The only other Valana I've met myself is my mother. I share, assuming this is what she means. I wasn't talking about your bloodline. Helene corrects me calmly. But that's no surprise given you and your daughter are the last ones. At first, I think I've misunderstood her. What? She blinks. Did you not know? Her gaze bounces between Drake and I, and she doesn't wait for us to answer, no, I can see you didn't. Well, I'm sorry to tell you, there aren't any other Valana wolves left. Why else do you think you are being hunted? You know about that? Drake demands. I do now, Helene explains. Before today I confess I never thought much on the matter. But you learn a great deal meeting new people. I want to run from this house and beg her to teach me everything she knows at the same time. Helen grins as if she can read my thoughts, then bursts out laughing when I narrow my eyes at her. Oh, come now, don't be silly. No one can read minds. But if you can't, how did you know I was thinking that? I object. I read feelings and secrets. I read the past. She clarifies, her tone becoming matter of fact as she continues. And I've been at it long enough to know what it means when someone looks at me that way. I'm impressed by your knowledge and skill. Drake informs her, looking like he's not sure whether to be pleased or concerned. And I'm glad to know you'll teach Celine. My question is whether that's all you'll do. Can we trust you with what you've discovered today? Can we trust that you will only help and do no harm? Helene gives Drake a long assessing look that makes him shift nervously from foot to foot. After a moment she returns her gaze to me and arches a brow. You have too many guard dogs. Trying to hide my snort of laughter, while Drake growls in offense over being called a dog. I cough and clear my throat. You have no idea. Do not worry, Alpha. Helene informs Drake coolly. Your friend is safe with me. I have no need for money. I have no ambition for power, and I've already lived too long as it is. And how long is that? Drake demands. Drake! I exclaim, outraged on my new teacher's behalf. Stop being rude. It's all right, little mother. Helene tells me, patting my cheek. Age is only a matter of vanity for the young. I'm 170 years old young man. I've lived more than 5 of your lifetimes, and you cannot intimidate me by baring your fangs. You can either trust me or kill me, but do not expect me to bow and scrape like the rest of your subjects. I cannot hide my surprise. Shifters have long lives as a rule, but I've never heard of anyone living past 150 before. Drake considers her for a moment, before nodding and turning to me. I like her. I do too. Far more than I imagined I would a few minutes ago. It's such a relief to have everything out in the open and have someone not only willing but capable of helping me. Drawing her attention back to me. I ask the only other question that might cease our association before it can truly begin. Is it safe to use my powers in my condition? Her eyes light up. That reminds me, I have something for you. Without another word she turns and disappears deeper into the house, the sound of her footsteps receding down a flight of stairs. But you didn't answer my question. I complain, trailing after her. I descend the steps into what can only be her workroom. The walls are lined with glass jars and herbs. The central table is scattered with heavy books and parchment, and there's even a bubbling cauldron in the corner. I feel as though I've walked into a fairy story, even though it's all still too surreal. Helene is scanning the jars on her shelves, her gnarled finger skimming the labels until she clucks with pleasure and plucks one from the mantel. Aha! She uncorked the glass vessel and raises it to her nose, nodding in approval. Not only is it safe, but using your powers will make you and the baby stronger, Celine. She tells me. So will this. Accepting the jar from her, I study the dried flowers inside, completely confused. What is it? The cure for your illness, she says, as if it should be obvious. Forget the doctor's dearie when it comes to creating life, it's best to trust a witch. When Drake and I return from meeting Helene, Lila seems like the only one who's happy to see us. She runs over and leaps into my arms, kissing me on the cheek and immediately rattling off stories from her day. Unfortunately, everyone else is gathered on the couch in front of the television, looking very somber indeed. What's wrong? Drake asks, striding over to his mate and lifting her off the couch before sitting in her spot and settling her in his lap. Sophie simply nods towards the television in answer. Oh no, I think. This must be about the kidnapping. The attempt on Lila, Sophie and I has been headline news ever since it happened, particularly because Bastien has still not reappeared. It turns out it didn't really matter whether Frederick's latest attempt, and we're all certain he is the one who was behind the plot, succeeded or not. The almost disaster was plenty damning in the eyes of the pack, at least when it comes to condemning my mate. After all, what kind of alpha lets his pack fall to chaos for his own ends? And what kind of mate fails to care when his wife and child's lives are in danger? Carrying Lila further into the room until I can see the screen myself. I'm both relieved not to see Bastien's name scrolling across the bottom of a news desk, and very dismayed to see Dr. Kane instead. Thomas or Frederick or whatever other name he might go by is standing in front of the same podium I spoke behind last week. Looking very grim indeed. This pack has been without a leader for too long. He announces, his features hard and unforgiving. I have immense respect for the Durand family's legacy in Elysium, and I consider Celine a close friend. I would never wish to impugn her honor. Here we go. Aiden mutters grumpily, reflecting my own feelings. Close friends my ass. I think friends do not make each other sick or spy on them under the guise of providing help. They also don't try to destroy their relationship or kill their mates. Luna adds, fair point. However, over the last few weeks I have been deeply disturbed by Bassetin's absence, and the crimes which have transpired as a result of the pack being seen as weak and lawless. I have seen the suffering of good Novans firsthand, from those who lost their homes in the fires to the families who lost fathers and mothers to the rogues. I have watched while Celine fights for her life and her child's, while her husband is away doing goddess knows what. And all while maintaining the strength and dignity of a true leader. Every time he compliments me, I know the hammer is about to fall against Bastien. It's a truly clever ruse, alternately riling up people's discontent and giving them someone to blame for their misfortunes, and avoiding being seen as a detractor through praising me. He's trying to turn Bassetin into a villain and himself a hero, all the while dangling me between them like the damsel I used to be. Even with Helen's healing herbs, I feel sick to my stomach. We have to stop this. I protect, my voice thick with emotion. He can't do this. He can't be allowed to just stand up there and lie to the pack. If we cut him off, we'll look like the monsters he's accusing us of being. It will play right into his hands. Donovan advises. This most recent news disturbed me more than everything which came before. I was certain that no matter what neglect he may have inflicted against the pack in the past few years, a wolf as honorable as Bastien would never neglect his mate the same way, especially not with everything he risked to get her back. Yet here we are days later, and there is still no sight of him. I know from caring for Celine in the hospital that she herself has not heard from Bastien in weeks. Despite her hospitalization being so widely publicized, he must certainly know. I have come to the terrible and unfortunate conclusion that our alpha is not the man we believed him to be. He is without integrity and without honor. And he does not care about us the way our leader should. He does not care for his family the way a man must. And he does not deserve our reverence or our respect. That bastard, Odette curses, offering me an apologetic glance when she remembers that Lila is in the room. Mommy, why's the mean doctor saying those things 'bout daddy? My pup asks, understanding far more of the unfolding events than I'd like. In hindsight, I realize I should have paid more attention to my daughter's dislike for the man. When it comes to sensing untrustworthy people, children and pets really do have the market cornered. Lila hadn't liked Thomas from the beginning, and I should have listened to her instincts rather than my own bias. Because he's not just mean, Angel. I explain with a sigh, he's a very bad man. You can say that again. Donovan gripes, Celine, do you want me to take Lila to play? Sophie suggests, pointedly glancing at the television. Drake growls and holds her a bit tighter, though I realize it's merely his protective instincts rather than disregard for my pup. The almost kidnapping was very triggering for the alpha, and watching the likely perpetrator denigrate us all is clearly making him lose his cool. That's okay, Soph. I decline gently, but thank you. It is not in my nature to create trouble or question authority. Dr. Kane is saying now, sending a communal scoff throughout the room. I do not believe in challenging the natural order of things or forgetting one's place in the grand scheme of the pack, but I also believe we all have a responsibility to speak out against injustice, no matter the consequences, and we are undoubtedly living through a great injustice at Bastien Durand's hands. I cannot stand by and remain silent while the pack I love and the people I care about suffer this way. And I encourage all Aletians to reject any status quo that keeps unfit rulers in power. Goddess, he's going to incite a rebellion. Odette moans. He's certainly trying. Aiden agrees, looking at me with deep concern. You're going to have to give a statement about all this before the morning news cycle. A statement saying what? I fret. I've already explained about Bastien, and I can't deny he isn't here or explain why he can't return yet. I can't even refute that we haven't spoken. Frederick is using you to prop himself up. Donovan reminds me. If you renounce him, at a minimum people will think twice about accepting what he says about you blindly. If I renounce him, he'll argue that Bastien has me brainwashed and reduce me to being a pawn in their games. I argue, I know we can't just let him say all this without making any kind of effort to refute him, but I think we need to think about it very carefully before deciding how to respond. She's right. Drake agrees. If we dig in our heels and just say he's full of it, it will look petty. We have to find a way to beat him at his own game. That might be difficult. Sophie murmurs, gesturing towards the screen, clearly ramping up for some dramatic ultimatum. Dr. Kane is now staring straight into the camera, speaking directly to the audience at home, rather than the reporters assembled in the room. People of Elysium, whether you are a Nova shifter, or have joined us from afar, I encourage you to ask yourself what you want in a leader. I encourage you to stand up with me and reject this mistreatment. To everyone in the pack house, I hope you know how much we all value how hard you've been working to keep things running in the Alpha's absence. I hope you know that this criticism is not intended to hold you at fault for Bastien's failings. To the Durand family, I want to thank you for everything you've done for this pack over the centuries, and pray you understand. I am doing this out of love for the pack, not hatred for you. His green eyes flash through the camera lens, and my heart stops in my chest. And to Bastien Durand, know you have been found guilty by popular opinion of neglecting your duty, your pack, and your family. Know you cannot walk all over us because you are stronger and more powerful. Know your actions have consequences. His deep voice is getting louder with every word, and a dull muttering has risen up among his audience. To you I issue the following challenge. If you truly care about your people, return and answer for your crimes. Return and face challengers for your position. If you do not return by the end of this month, we will take it as proof you do not wish to defend your title, but you will have to defend it even if you do come home. I will be formally challenging you to become alpha if and when you return. Just as I will fight any wolf who wishes to take your place. Dr. Kane proclaims forcefully, baring his fangs, "You have 2 weeks. And you." As much as I wanted to slap my supplier right in the face when he advised me to try being lovable, I can't deny he had a point. I need Bastien to fall head over heels in love with me, and I haven't been trying very hard thus far. After all, I have to convince him we're meant to be together so completely that he won't believe the truth even when his betas say it to his face. He has to be so blinded by affection that he won't recognize his own mate if they meet again. I've got my work cut out for me. At least I have one advantage, which is that I know what he likes. I just have to act as pathetic and helpless as Celine, and the big idiot will fall at my feet. No one is easier to manipulate than an alpha with a hero complex, except maybe one who's being drugged. That's the other tool in my limited arsenal. I've decided to up the dosage of the memory potion a bit, so that he's even more confused than he is already. I'm going to set my plan in motion tonight. I've done everything I can think of to arrange the perfect date. While he's taking a little drug-induced nap, a professional cleaning crew and chef will make me look like Susie Homemaker, and the dress I purchased this afternoon will make me look even more appetizing than dinner. I'll act as sweet and ditzy as I possibly can. Lord knows his mate doesn't have a spine, let alone a brain. However, before I begin the distasteful task of making that OF love me, I have to deal with the other alpha in my life. Blaze hasn't seemed to mind my absence too much in recent days, and I might have been offended if it weren't for the fact that I very much needed the time away from him to sort out things with Bastien. Still, he did call an audience with me this afternoon, so I expect he'll be bending over backwards to apologize for his neglect. I'll have to act aloof and unconvinced so that I can explain my continued absence in coming weeks. Blaze is the only alpha I've ever known who actually sits on a throne. And he's waiting for me in the throne room when I arrive, looking imperiously down at his subjects from the dais. The room is half full of nobles and aristocrats required to fawn over him every afternoon by his own decree. And I'm only too pleased to have an audience for his apology. Is there something you'd like to tell me, Arabella? Blaze inquires ominously, tapping his fingers impatiently on the arm of the throne. For a moment I think he might know about Bastien, and fear courses through my body. Whatever do you mean? I ask him with a wide smile, playing dumb. Think very carefully, Novin. He growls. You do not want to lie to me. I want to be caught hiding Bastien from you even less. I think, furrowing my brow, I say, I'm sorry, sir. I'm confused. I really don't know what you're talking about. Blaze nods at his beta, and the big wolf steps forward and places a stack of glossy photos in my hand. Looking down at them in surprise and disbelief, I realize they're all of me. Thankfully, none of them include Bastien, but they do show me going around the city on my day-to-day business, including visiting my potion supplier at the underground market. I stammer, you've been having me followed, as is my right. Blaze snarls, clenching his fists at my audacity. Would you care to explain what you were doing buying memory potions from a common trader? I have to think fast, glancing around the assembled crowd and praying for someone to come to my aid. My mind races a mile a minute. When no one speaks up, I look back to the terrifying alpha and nervously gnaw on my lower lip. I was stocking up, I lie, sudden inspiration striking me. I thought it might come in handy when we take over the Nova Pack. There might be a few people who don't fall in line immediately, but if we can make them forget, it will be easier. Is that so? Blaze asks rhetorically, rising from his throne. Yes, I insist. I was going to tell you the plan the next time we met. The alpha smiles, and I breathe a little easier. I return his grin as he draws nearer, relieved beyond belief that he bought my story. He comes so close that our bodies are almost touching, and before my eyes his smile melts to a horrible grimace. He lashes out and fists his hand in my hair, yanking my head back. Listen to me, you impudent bitch. I flinch as his harsh words and even harsher touch, not understanding where I went wrong. First of all, we are not taking over the Nova Pack. I am taking over the Nova Pack. And if you're lucky, I'll let you live long enough to lick my boots once we succeed. He hisses, spittle flying from his lips as he shakes me roughly, drawing an unwilling whimper from my lips. Second, you do not make plans and inform me about them later. You do not make plans at all. You do not even think without my permission. You are useful to me because of your connection to the Durans and your inside knowledge. That is why I'm keeping you around, not so that you can fuck up my best laid plans by getting ideas of your own. He thunders. To my shame, tears burn in my eyes and I begin to tremble. The only reason I'm able to keep it that much together is that he's clearly not planning on killing me, but I'm only too aware that he might still hurt me. And third, I don't associate with the drudges of the underground. No one above ground is permitted to contaminate themselves with those mongrels' poverty and depravity. If you expect to receive another audience with me, I expect you to thoroughly disinfect yourself and never set foot down there again. I do not need another dirty whore serving me. I want only the purest of she-wolves in my presence. Is that clear? Yes, sir. I'm so sorry. I mewl pitifully. I'll make it up to you, I promise. You won't do a single thing without my express orders? Blaze roars. He raises his hand a second before his knuckles slam across my face, sending pain exploding through my head. He's still holding me by the hair, so I can't even fall to the ground. I hang there by my hair, struggling to breathe through the agony. I'm sorry. I moan again, half sobbing. Good. He drops me like a sack of bricks. Now get out of my sight. I can't meet the gazes of any of the courtiers filling the room as I slink out with my tail between my legs. What on earth just happened? I can't believe I miscalculated so badly. I can't believe I didn't notice I was being followed. I'm going to have to be much more careful in the future. I stop in the opulent restroom before leaving, wiping away my running mascara and trying to get my tears under control. There's already a huge purple bruise blooming across my cheek, and my nose and eyes are red and splotchy. This is so not how I wanted to look before my big date with Bastien. After all, Celine always looks perfect. She's even a pretty crier, and I absolutely am not. However, as I'm washing my face, I realize that this might actually work in my favor after all. Bastien has always been a sucker for a woman in need, and I don't actually have to tell him about Blaze. I could easily pretend I was attacked by some strange wolf and fall into his arms like that helpless bitch he calls a mate. The more I consider the idea, the more I like it, and the more grateful I am to Blaze. This really couldn't have gone better if I planned it. When I get home a little while later, I turn off the oven and kick out the cleaners, undoing all their preparations for our date and hiding the evidence. Once the apartment is back to normal, I walk out into the hallway and work myself up into another fit of tears. When I'm suitably pathetic, I crash into the house so loudly. I'm sure it will wake Bastien. I slam the door hard and throw myself against it, sliding back down the wood until my butt hits the floor and sobbing melodramatically. Right on cue, Bastien surges out of his room on high alert. He takes one look at me and pales, his hands instinctively clenching into fists. Bella, he asks frantically, what happened? All I ever seem to do these days is pace, scour the news from Elysium, and try to figure out what hell I'm going to do. I cannot stomach the idea of standing by and doing nothing, but Arabella gets so frantic every time I mention going back or taking action that I've learned to cool my temper around her. It's strange. I've witnessed 1,000 of Bella's tantrums over the years, but she's never been a cowardly wolf. No, her fits have almost always been about not getting her way. This is the first time I've ever seen her so beside herself out of fear. She must have been terribly traumatized to be this afraid. And things must be even worse in Elysium. Then I realized if she feels she has no allies there. I still find it hard to believe my mother, Aiden and Donovan would all be so easily fooled by Celine. But everything I read in the papers or see on television backs up what Arabella says. The pack is about ready to throw me out as alpha, and my so-called mate is nowhere to be found. If anything, she stirs up the discontent by making herself a victim at the expense of my absence. Unfortunately, the cable was out last week during the press conference she gave. But Arabella showed me the papers the next day, which detailed how my wife bemoaned my negligence and blamed me for everything going wrong at home. I don't want to upset Arabella, but I cannot allow this to go on. I have to return home and expose my cousin and traitorous wife. I'm supposed to be here planning my next move, but every time I think of a new idea, Arabella shoots it down. I admit she knows the current situation better than I do. But I think I've been letting her fear guide us both, and that cannot continue. My wolf goes on high alert when I smell Bella drawing near the apartment and hear her crying. I'm automatically bracing myself for danger when she stumbles into the room, bruised and sobbing, rushing to her side. I lock the door behind her and gather her up, trying to get a look at her, even as she collapses into my arms. What happened? It was Blaze, she wails, sniffling loudly. He called an audience with me and I thought it was just to talk about the state dinner next week, but it wasn't. Blaze did this, I demand fiercely, finally pushing her off of me long enough to get a look at the dark bruise blooming across her cheek. What kind of a man hits an innocent woman? I think in horror. What kind of alpha treats his subjects that way? The same kind that would lock all the poor and diabled people in an underground prison and ban them from mixing with their betters. Axel supplies with a snarl. Yes. Arabella cries. Oh, Bastian. He was terrifying. He's been having me followed. He said he knew I'd been exploring the city, going to the underground. He said he didn't give me permission to roam Tartarus at will and threatened to kill me if I crossed him again. What? I utter in disbelief. That's insane. He's insane. Arabella agreed. It's only a blessing he didn't see us together. We can't risk you leaving the house again, or he might kill us both. As guilty as I feel for thinking it, I can't help but feel Arabella is being hysterical. First, because breaking a law and going to the underground is a far cry from merely stepping outside one's own front door. Especially when Blaze has no idea who I am. Second, because regardless of the threat it may pose, I have zero intention of lying down and letting a tyrant walk all over me. And third, because none of this makes any sense. I mean, I know Blaze is a ruthless tyrant, but I have to be missing some detail here. Why would he care so much about a random she-wolf who doesn't even belong to his pack defying him? Why would it matter if he saw another visitor staying with her? She's not telling us everything. Axel reasons, far more calmly than I would have expected him to feel under the circumstances. That's the only explanation. Come here. I encourage Arabella gently, guiding her to the kitchen. Let me take a look at your cheek. As we move across the room, I realize Arabella is limping, so I sweep her up into my arms and set her on the counter. Just breath, Bella, I encourage. Can you do that for me? The sobbing blonde heaves in a few gulps of breath. And when her shaking has lessened, I prompt her to start from the beginning. It's like I told you, she chokes. He called me for an audience and attacked me. Though bruised, her cheek looks as if it will heal relatively quickly. Based on my own battle experience, I'd say he walloped her pretty hard, but only struck once. At least the bastard is capable of that much restraint. Okay, where else are you hurt? I ask, looking her over. Just my cheek and my ankle. She sniffs, her lips trembling dangerously, moving to examine her ankle. I can't find anything visibly wrong with it, but presume it must be a sprain. Bella. Why was Blaze having you followed? I don't really know a delicate way of asking this question, so I simply blurt out the tactless thought in my mind. Why does he care about you, or what you're doing in the city? Arabella flushes, looking surprised by my blunt words and unsure how to answer. I can see the gears spinning in her head, and I know Axel was right. She is hiding something. It's also clear she doesn't want to tell me her secret. Her lips are pursed, and her brown eyes are darting around as if searching for an answer. What is it, Bella? I encourage. You can tell me. She peeked up at me from beneath her lashes, looking more vulnerable than I can remember seeing her in a very long time. You have to promise you won't get mad. Just tell me, honey. I promise you'll feel better with everything out in the open. Staring at her lap and nervously twiddling her fingers, she admits, Blaze. He's been pursuing me. Her voice is barely louder than a whisper. He came on to me when I first arrived, but I told him I wasn't that kind of girl. I don't think he knows how to take no for an answer. Damn, I think, overcome with fury and frustration. This explains a lot, including why a strange man's mere presence could cause problems for Arabella. It's also a very unfortunate complication for both of us. Well, he has a funny way of showing his affection, I growl, pulling a bag of frozen peas from the freezer and tenderly applying it to her cheek. She winces and tries to push me away, but I hush her and hold firm. I know it hurts, darling. Just give it a moment. It will help. Thank you for taking care of me, Bastian. She whimpers. I don't know what I'd do without you. You don't ever have to worry about that again. I vow, from here on out, it's you and me, Bella. We're going to get through this together. She blinks up at me tearfully, her hands clutching my shirt in an iron grip. But how? In this moment, I can almost see her as a child again. When she inevitably got herself in over her head trying to prove herself, and Flynn and I would have to come to the rescue. I recognize the hallmarks well, and I have a feeling this is more of the same. I don't doubt she's hurting, but Arabella has never been the type to pull out the puppy dog eyes, unless she's trying to garner sympathy. Nothing excuses what Blaze has done. But I wouldn't be surprised if she hadn't come here intending to charm him and subsequently bit off more than she can chew. Sweet and vulnerable is not her style unless she's trying to get out of trouble. Then she'll pull out all the stops to avoid accountability. We've got to get out of this city. I insist, hoping this incident will finally make her see how dangerous it is to stay here. I need to return to Elysium, and we need to get you away from Blaze. No. Arabella yelps, surprising me. We can't leave. This is the only place we're safe from Celine. Furrowing my brow in confusion, I study Flynn's sister closely, thinking perhaps Blaze hit her harder than I realized. But Bella, we aren't safe here either, I remind her. Blaze is never going to be an ally to me, and he's a threat to us both. Actually, I've been thinking, Arabella says, though it truly seems like she's making this up as she goes along. Maybe I should just give in to Blaze. What are you talking about? I demand. He might help us if I did. She shrugs. Bella, you've spent weeks telling me what a monster he is, and that he'd kill me for the Nova Pack and the first chance. I exclaim. I don't know what else to do. She cries, jumping down off the counter. It's different for you. You can go back and fight Celine and Frederick, but I'm exiled. From our pack and from all of our allies, too. I don't have a choice but to stay in Tartarus, and this might be the only way I can do so safely. I command forcefully. That isn't happening. When I go home, you'll come with me. I'm going to make things right. She shakes her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. You still don't get it, do you? She asks. The moment you go back there, they'll turn you against me. They'll convince you I'm evil. They've already done it once, they can do it again. Understanding finally sinks in, and I realize this is what she's been afraid of all along. Then we won't give them a choice, I decide. We'll make it so nothing can come between us. What do you mean? Arabella questions, sounding defeated. We'll get married. Howdy. It's not much of a proposal. And certainly not how I ever planned on asking a woman to marry me. But given our dire straits, it will have to do. We'll get married, I say again, sharing my idea as it forms in my mind. I'll reject Celine. We can have the papers sent from here via courier. She'll never sign. Arabella argues, even though her doe eyes wide and hopeful. She won't have to. I announce, with all the crimes she's guilty of, we can get the marriage annulled. It's not a true union if one party is tricked into it, and regardless, I'm the alpha. I remind Arabella, my elite status gives me privileges, even my spouse doesn't enjoy. She doesn't have to agree to being rejected, as long as I want it. You'd really do that? Arabella asks in awe. Trust me, Bella, I was already planning on it. I remark ruefully, no. Not the rejection. She clarifies, you'd really marry me, turning to face Arabella head-on. I can't help but imagine Flynn standing beside her with his muscular arms crossed over his chest, glaring at me for ever letting a witch break my vow to take care of his sister in the first place. I gave Flynn my word that I would always take care of you. No matter what, I explained to Arabella. I'm sorry I let Celine get the better of me, but now that I know what she is, I won't be fooled again. You have my word. I will fulfill my duty. I will make you my wife. A beaming smile splits Arabella's cheeks, but it doesn't quite reach her eyes. For the first time since losing my memory, I remember part of why I waited so long to go through with this vow in the first place. Arabella is still so young, and I know we aren't mates. She deserves the chance to find love as much as anyone else. Unless, of course, you'd rather marry another. Or take some time to try and find your true mate. I'll provide for you either way. And I don't want to tie you to a union that won't make you happy. I just want you to be safe. No, she exclaims without hesitation. I want to marry you, Bastien, she professes. I always have, I just feel, well, I know you don't love me that way, dropping my head so she can't see my frown. I recall all the stories I've heard from generations past, when marriage was a legal and financial arrangement, and fated mates were considered frivolous fantasies. Lots of great marriages have started out being arranged between friends, or people who barely know each other. I state simply, striding forward and taking Arabella's hands in mine. We have a great friendship, and that's a better foundation than many true mates start out with. I'm sure love will grow in time, I proclaim confidently, though deep down, the thought of kissing my surrogate sister, let alone consummating a marriage with her, makes me slightly nauseous. Are you sure it will be enough? Arabella simpers, sidling close. You have no idea how horrible Celine truly is. She murmurs, making my heart ache in sympathy. She did everything she could to destroy me. And everyone believed her. And now she tries to make you a fool, and she's succeeding. I'm so sorry that happened, Bella. Hugging her and hating every last detail of what she's shared with me. I continue. But it sounds like Celine succeeded by twisting my emotions for years and years. So losing my memory is actually a gift. I declare with utter conviction. I'm awake now. She doesn't have any emotional leverage over me anymore. I'm certain the goddess took my memory in that attack so that I could go back and make things right. I've always imagined myself to be a man of principle, but if everything Arabella is telling me is true, I've failed completely. I've let a horrible woman deceive me and manipulate me into acting completely out of character. And for what? This has to be a second chance for both Arabella and I. Otherwise, everything we've lost over the years has been a waste. I think I'm dreaming, Arabella admits, suddenly uncharacteristically shy. You have no idea how many times I've imagined you coming after me. She bites her lower lip, turning positively crimson. How many times I've fantasized about marrying you. Guilt and shame wash over me, competing for dominance. Flynn's little sister has only ever been good to me. She's suffered beyond belief, from the loss of her parents to the death of her brother. I can't claim any fault in the former tragedy, but the latter was undoubtedly my fault. I have carried Flynn's death with me from the moment it happened. But apparently, it wasn't enough. Even before my head was turned by Celine, Arabella suffered and pined for me while I overlooked her at best and spurned her at worst. You're not dreaming, and I'm not teasing you. I promise, I want to marry you. Are you sure? She presses. I don't want you to offer unless you really mean it. I've never meant anything more. I insist. Please, Arabella, be my wife. You won't regret it, I promise. You're only saying this because you feel guilty about Flynn and Celine. Arabella argues. You're wrong, I command. I'm saying this because I want what's best for you. Scanning her features, I all but beg her to agree. So what do you say? Of course. Arabella smiles, throwing her arms around my neck. Of course I'll marry you. Laughing and spinning her around, I make a silent vow to myself. I won't fail this woman again. I don't care what happens with Blaze or Celine. I will never turn away from her again. Tay. Wet. A few hours later, when we've broken out a bottle of champagne, and Arabella has enthusiastically began planning the event, despite the fact that we're in mortal danger. A fact I've decided to ignore for one night, simply because I can't bear to ruin her good mood. I collect the evening paper. We may be celebrating, but there's a lot of serious matters to deal with, as well as logistics to sort out. I can't risk losing touch with the situation in Elysium. As soon as I open the front page of the paper, I'm both immensely glad I chose to read it and horrified by the headline. Dr. Thomas Kane issues an ultimatum for the Alpha's return and challenges him for the pack. In an explosive press conference held at Elysium Memorial Hospital today, the chief of medicine called out the Alpha for his absence at a time of such peril in our pack. Combined with the wildfire, rogue attacks, and the attempted kidnapping of Celine and Lila Durand last week, he insisted that Bastien return to Elysium immediately to face judgment for his neglect. Calling particular attention to the plight of his mate and pup, I was certain that no matter what neglect he may have inflicted on the pack in the past few years, a wolf as honorable as Bastien would never neglect his wife in the same way. I have come to the terrible and unfortunate conclusion that our Alpha is not the man we believed him to be. Arabella comes to read the publication over my shoulder when she hears me cursing. Oh my God, who the hell is Dr. Kane? I demand, eyeing the black and white photo closely to try and determine if he could be my cousin. Because our fathers were always at each other's throats, I never spent much time with him when we were pups, and all association was cut off after the coup attempt. All I really remember is that he has green eyes. That's not Dr. Kane. Arabella confirms my suspicions a moment later. That's Frederick. He became a doctor at Odil's bidding. She knew the family doctor would have unlimited access to the Alpha. It's how he killed Gabriel. He used one of the emergency passageways and then arrived with the investigators to pronounce him dead. That way, his scent was mixed with everyone else's, so they never got any leads on the assassin. It gave him the power to help Celine fake her death, forge the DNA results so she could convince you their pup was hers. Odile. I repeat, this is the first I've heard about Frederick's mother being involved. Arabella goes still. Did I not mention, she asks, licking her lips. Celine and Frederick met after his plan was already underway. Odile had been grooming him to take revenge on your family ever since the coup attempt. He and Celine simply had compatible ambitions. It wasn't until after they allied that they fell in love. And what's this about a kidnapping attempt? I growl. He's talking about it like it's widely known, but it hasn't been in any of the papers. I don't know. Arabella sighs, sounding as frustrated as I am. But if I had to guess, I'd say it's another scheme of Frederick and Celine's, to win her sympathy and turn people against you. You notice it was only an attempt. He probably charged to the rescue, and is now using it to say you're a horrible mate. Crumpling the paper and throwing it against the wall, I snarl, I'll kill him. I'll kill them both. I don't think I'll ever get used to people recognizing me on the street. As if I'm some sort of celebrity rather than a girl who spent 8 years alone in a basement, with no one for company but my trapped wolf. Now it's impossible for me to go anywhere without being recognized. Even now, as rain falls in sheets around me and I'm bundled up against the crisp chill of the autumn air. Walking down the street is a veritable minefield. Half of the people who stop me merely wish to offer me congratulations on the new baby, but the other half pepper me with questions about Bastien's whereabouts. I've almost reached the hospital when a reporter catches me, running forward with a microphone and camera crew in tow. Celine, I'm Katrina Davies from the Evening Standard. Do you have a moment to speak with us? I can spare a moment. I agree, unsure of whether this is actually a good idea. We've been debating how to respond to Frederick's challenge since he issued it yesterday. Barely sleeping in the wake of the unfolding disaster. As of yet, we still haven't reached a consensus about what to do. And I'm already going rogue by going to the hospital in the first place. The guys would lose their minds if they knew I plan on confronting Dr. Kane directly, and I'd certainly prefer to avoid the conflict myself. But I don't know what else to do. I can only pray I get through it without having a post-traumatic stress episode. I'm sure the sly wolf would use it as an excuse to hospitalize me again. On the other hand, if I give an interview in front of the hospital, at least people will know where to look for me if I don't come home tonight. First of all, how are you doing? Katrina asks, holding the microphone out to me. We're so pleased to see you out of the hospital. Thank you, I respond graciously. I'm happy to report I'm doing much better. I smile, patting my belly through my wool coat, and getting fatter by the day. The reporter and crew chuckle warmly, and I decide that speaking to them might actually help after all. If I can pretend to be charming, maybe people will take our side. That's wonderful. Katrina gushes. And your little one at home, has she warmed up to the idea of being a big sister yet? Now, it's my turn to laugh. Not quite, but she is currently trying to convince me that she'd feel better about it if I got her a pony, so at least it's helping her develop an enterprising spirit. And the alpha, Katrina continues. Is there any word on when he might return? I wish I could tell you otherwise. I share honestly, but I'm afraid I don't have any news on that front. Now I have to ask. The reporter announces, which all but guarantees she doesn't have to do anything of the sort. Do you have any comment about the accusations Dr. Kane made against the alpha yesterday, and the challenge he issued? I'd like to say, I won't dignify Dr. Kane's slander with a comment, but I'm afraid that would only add more fuel to the proverbial fire. I sigh, not bothering to hide my frustration. Next to the slimy wolf's fake persona, hopefully seeing someone with genuine feelings will highlight just how dishonest Dr. Kane's act truly is. Instead, I'll say this. To any Novan who has met my husband in person, I begin choosing my words carefully. I beg you to think back on those occasions and ask yourself what you yourself thought of him. What did your wolf's instincts tell you about the man, and how did you feel in the moment? Ignore whatever might be getting said in the papers or on TV, and ask yourself whether you trust yourself or the words of strangers who greatly stand to gain by bringing down the alpha. More, you think Dr. Kane is saying all these things purely for his own gain? Katrina questions excitedly. Pursing my lips, I reply, well, let's just say this. If you want evidence of Dr. Kane's dedication to this pack's well-being and his apparent concern for me, you might like to know that while I was in the hospital, he treated me by giving me placebos which kept me ill and under his control. He purposefully failed to help a patient in his care. Because he wanted me within his reach and away from the people looking out for me. After our betas and Drake Kavanaugh helped me leave the hospital as I'd been begging to do for days and days. I went to another physician who confirmed that Dr. Kane had been making me sick. He risked my life and the life of the alpha's pup because he knew if I was close by he might have a chance to convince me to give up on my husband. The reporter's jaw actually drops. That's quite an accusation. The evidence is right here. I shrug, patting my belly again. You can see how well I appeared in my own press conference, after I'd been under his care for over a week and was supposedly drugged to the hilt. I couldn't make it 10 minutes without getting sick and looked like a walking skeleton. Now, I'm down to 3 prescriptions with a different doctor. And I can not only make it through the afternoon without collapsing, but I've already put on 5 pounds. The only difference is that my pills are real now. How could any doctor do such a horrible thing? One of the cameramen mutters, earning an exasperated look from Katrina. We'll cut that out, she remarks. But he's right. I've been approached by a lot of concerned Novans these past few weeks. I continue on a roll now, and I appreciate everyone's congratulations on my growing family, and I empathize with everyone who is afraid or upset right now, because I'm honestly feeling exactly the same way. We are living in extremely difficult times. I feel myself tearing up and ask to pause the interview. I'm sorry, can we stop for a second? No, this is great, Katrina whispers, before saying more loudly, it's okay, Celine, tell us how you're feeling. Annoyed, but trusting the woman, I continue. I wish Bastien was home, and I know he does too. But he's not here because he believes so much in his duty to protect his family and his pack that he's willing to lose his reputation in order to do what's right. Swiping at the rogue droplets rolling down my cheeks, I clear my throat. The people's concerns are valid, and it's right to ask where Bastien is and why he isn't here, even if we can't give you the answers you deserve for security reasons. But anytime we're faced with the prospect of a challenge like this, we also have to remember to ask about the people making the accusations. I don't have these answers yet myself, but I encourage anyone who cares about our future to ask who exactly Dr. Kane is. Where did he come from? What is his background? Why should we listen to him? And if it comes to this, does he deserve to lead us? Wise words. Katrina nods, an excited glimmer in her eyes. Now Celine, I can't help but notice we're standing outside Dr. Kane's hospital right now. Can we presume you're on your way to ask some of those questions yourself? Offering her an amused huff, I confirm. Yes, I'd hope to speak with Dr. Kane about his press conference off the record, rather than beginning a public feud by keeping everything in the media. But you got the better of me, Katrina. Well, you know the public loves good gossip. She laughs. Who doesn't? I concede. But I find as entertaining as gossip is at times, it almost never makes things better for the people with most at stake, which in this case is the pack. Hard work behind the scenes isn't fun or newsworthy, but it does more to improve the lives of everyday people than slinging mud behind a podium. So I suppose there's no chance you'd let us come with you? She asks hopefully, clearly realizing this was never going to happen. I shoot her a look, and she surrenders with a laugh. All right, thank you, Celine. Katrina shakes my hand. We wish you luck either way. Thank you, I answer, trying to smile as I walk away. I'm not sure how well that went, and I have a bad feeling it sounded far too preachy at the end. Still, it helped me frame my thoughts for the conversation ahead. A few minutes later, I'm storming into Dr. Kane's office with my hands on my hips and smoke steaming from my ears. The physician rises, a surprised expression on his face as he comes around his desk. "Celine, how are you feeling?" Rather than answering him, I narrow my eyes and offer him my most intimidating glare. "What the hell are you doing?" "Taiyen." "Frederick. Well, this is interesting. I didn't think Celine had it in her to stand up for herself. Clearly the betas and Drake have been a worse influence on her than I realized. On the other hand, she is here, and that gives us an opportunity to help her see the error of her ways." "What do you mean?" I ask, spreading my hands in front of me and inviting her to continue. "Don't give me that." Celine snaps. "You just publicly challenged my husband. Goodness, she can be feisty when she wants to." My wolf growls. Just another bad habit to train out of her. I think back, there were always bound to be a few. And look. She looks much better. She must have figured out about the pills. My wolf points out, sounding even more irritated than before. I too have to admit, that's a problem. I had been hoping she'd miscarry without the right drugs, but I didn't want to trigger it directly because then she'd be released from the hospital and go home. Far better if she be admitted for a drawn-out stay and lose the baby towards the end, by which point I'd have been her closest confidant. I still hadn't given up hope for this plan when she left against my orders. After all, I knew she'd be back soon enough without the right care. Unfortunately, her watchdog seemed to have figured out that she wasn't getting better for a reason. "Yes. I'm sorry about that." I sigh, trying my best to sound genuine. "This has all been so unfortunate." "You're sorry?" Celine parrots fiercely. "You do realize your actions are hurting some very real people, don't you? And what about the harm to the pack?" I argue back, pressing my hand to my heart. I have to follow my conscience. I insist. Reaching forward and clasping her by the arms, I ignore her protests and speak as poignantly as I can manage. "Celine, the pack is suffering. And you think playing on their fear and pain is helping them?" She counters incredulously. "You think that exploiting their hardships to make them turn against the best leader we've had in a century is going to make things better?" Her tiny hands are pushing at my arms ineffectually, and I can't help but admire how adorable she is for trying when she has no chance of success. "No, Thomas. Let's be honest. You just want to cause chaos and destabilize the city so that you can swoop in like a hero and take power." Hemp, she's smarter than I realized. My wolf notes another problem, not if she can be won over to our side. I reason, brushing aside his cynical concerns. "Please, you've seen what happens when she-wolves get too many bright ideas." He reminds me, "Arabella and your mother caused nothing but problems. They weren't Celine." I insist. "You know as well as I do that she's normally sweetness itself. You were the one who pushed me to save her from the fire. Remember, you couldn't bear to see such an innocent life taken when she's already suffered so much. That was before." He grumbles. "She's only doing this now because she's frightened." I state firmly, cornered animals are always the most dangerous. He agrees. "The question is whether you can ever convince her to trust you. As long as she sees you as an enemy, she'll never feel safe, and we'll be stuck with this defiance." I know my wolf is right. I have to make her realize I want what's best for her, that I, not Bastian, am the one she truly deserves to be with. Staring deep into her eyes, I drop my voice an octave and brush my thumbs back and forth across her bare skin, pleased to see a shiver of desire run down her spine. "That's not the only reason, and you know it," I declare. "I can't stand what he's doing to you." "What he's doing to me," Celine repeats, her lovely full lips agape. "I'll have you know he's doing all this for me." She hisses, trying to hide her obvious interest in me by going completely still. And regardless, I'm not your concern. Oh, so that's the way you want to play it. I think in amusement. You're a public figure and the leader of this pack's she-wolves. I remind her. Your treatment is of concern to all Novans. Her stunning eyes flash. Let's cut the crap, Dr. Kane. She insists. This isn't about the pack, it never has been. Fine. I agree. Let's speak plainly. Bastien has never treated you right. She opens her mouth to object, but I raise a finger to her lips. I've known you for years, Celine. I remember how devastated you were when he was rejecting you. I remember the way he sided with Arabella all the while she tried to kill you. How could you ever forgive him? After everything he did, Celine pushes my finger away. You knew me once, at a time in my life when I was weak and confused. I had so little self-worth I believed I was completely unlovable. And I was so vulnerable to manipulation that I let a crazy woman trick me into believing my husband didn't want me. None of it was real. Oh, Celine. I shake my head and sigh. You poor thing. That isn't what happened. You're so caught up in the middle of all this, you're incapable of seeing the truth. How dare you? She cries, so loudly that I release her and close the door to my office before my secretary can get suspicious. I lived it, not you, and you're not an objective observer here. Just admit it, you've had it out for Bastien since day one. When I try to approach her again, she backs away, continuing to retreat until we're circling each other. Arabella tried to push me down the stairs and you helped me run away from Bastien. You encouraged me to fear him. Celine recalls. Arabella made me believe he was leaving me for her, and you helped me hide my pregnancy. You didn't tell him I was pregnant when Arabella tried to kill me. You probably altered the DNA results too, didn't you? You knew I wasn't dead, but you wanted Bastien to be weak so you made him think I was. You're wrong. I growl. I was trying to help you. It never had anything to do with him. And why were you willing to risk so much to help me? She demands. You turned against your alpha. You kept him from his mate. He could have killed you if he found out and no one in the pack would have blamed him. Why do you always defend him? I explode, slamming my fist on my desk. He's an arrogant, entitled bully. He has good looks, muscles, and nothing else. He only married you because his father ordered him to. Then, he made you miserable the entire time you were together. He didn't even claim you until he found out he'd bred you. And what? You would have done things differently, would you? Celine scoffs. Damn straight I would. I thunder. I've seen how special you are from day one. I would have claimed you the moment I laid eyes on you. If I had his power, I would have made you my queen. I would have made sure you never wanted for anything. You deserve to be pampered and cherished after everything you went through. Not tossed aside like yesterday's garbage. Her brows furrow, and a sliver of vulnerability enters her expression. Her voice is small when she asks, You would have claimed me. When I was barely 18, traumatized, wolfless, and didn't even know what the word meant. Yes. I assure her passionately, I wouldn't have thought twice about it. That's how much I care about you. That's despicable. She forces the words out through clenched teeth, all signs of weakness long gone. Bastien may have coddled me and kept himself at a distance, but at least he recognized that I needed time to heal rather than just forcing himself on me. I'm glad it was him and not you. I'm glad, even if I did end up almost burning alive because of the target on his back. And who do you think pulled you from that fire? I question ferociously. You wouldn't even be standing here today if it wasn't for me. Are you saying that you're the one who saved me? Celine clarifies, looking truly stunned now. Yes. I cry. Yes, I saved your life and Lila's. I'm not sure what I expected. Gratitude. Thanks, praise, fawning. Proclamations of love or eternal dedication. Whatever I thought, it isn't what I got. Instead, Celine's shocked expression fades away, replaced by a look so cunning I take a step back. What? And how did you know I was in that cabin, Thomas? She asks, going in for the kill. How did you know I needed saving, and why did you abandon me, pregnant and alone in the neutral territories afterward? Why? There haven't been many times in my life that I've felt like a genius, but I certainly do now. After my success with the reporters outside, I was prepared to take on Dr. Kane, but I never expected to catch him out like this. As alarming and disturbing as his behavior has been throughout our conversation, I'm on the verge of making him admit he was working with Arabella. And that's only a few steps short of making him admit he's not Dr. Kane at all. But Frederick, this man I once trusted, is looking at me as if he's never seen me before. I'm afraid he'll try to touch me again or profess his love, but I'm also afraid he might attack. It honestly seems like it could go either way. I learned what Arabella was planning. He admits hoarsely, seemingly unable to think of a lie in the moment. Because you were working with her, I suggest. Because you were helping her drive me away from Bastien. Suddenly another detail clicks into place. That's why she was in the hospital the night she tried to push me down the stairs, isn't it? She was coming to meet you and you made sure she overheard I was pregnant. He immediately denies. She was never supposed to overhear that, but she was there to meet you. I press, feeling more powerful than I can remember being in quite some time. Moments ago this man was controlling the room, and now he's pale and sputtering nervously. Because of me, and I didn't even have to use my powers. Yes. He breathes in resignation. We were working together, but Celine, you have to understand, it started out about Bastien. But when I met you, I realized we were meant to be together. The goddess would disagree. I reply simply, and so do I. I've been walking a fine line this entire time, needing him to confess to being Frederick Durand, but knowing if I come out and ask or accuse him outright, he'll deny it. I don't understand why you were working with her in the first place. If it was before you met me, what did you have against Bastien? Has it always been about the power? That's it? He asks, clearly offended. I tell you I saved your life and your pup's life, and all you care about is why I worked against your husband. Our lives never would have been in danger in the first place if it hadn't been for your and Arabella's schemes. I remind him. Do you expect me to thank you for that? He shakes his head, looking truly disappointed now. You're not who I thought you were. That's the difference between a fantasy and a real person, Thomas. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel discouraged not to extract a full confession from him. But I also don't want to show him all my cards just yet. I'm not the dream woman you imagined. And Bastien isn't the villain you've made him out to be either. Turning towards the door, I leave him with one final thought. The truth is a lot more complicated than you're making it out to be. I'm here, if you want to talk further. I'd much rather you and I speak this way than play games in the media. He looks truly torn, as if he wants to believe me and strike me at the same time. I'm not sure which feeling will win out, and I don't want to risk the latter, so I duck out before he can respond. When I get home, I'm excited to share what happened with the others, but I don't get the chance. As soon as I walk inside, my pup's voice and the sound of the TV news greets me. And I have a sneaky suspicion I know what the anchors are covering. Mommy, you're famous. Lila cries, flying across the room and into my arms. Kissing her hello and moving deeping into the apartment, I see my own image on the television screen and wince. I always hate seeing myself in photos and videos. Even so, the scrolling text at the bottom of the screen is nothing short of a glowing compliment, even going so far as to encourage viewers to keep an eye out for investigations into Dr. Kane. Odette is as complimentary as my daughter, hugging me and sharing. I'm impressed. They almost never show full interviews like this. It's always edited down to a few clips. You did so well, Celine. I don't know where it came from, The words just sort of spilled out of me. I shrug, blushing. And you looked fabulous. Sophie adds from the couch, in the rain and all. Turning to look at the other figures in the room, I realize the women's opinions are not shared. Drake, Aiden, and Donovan are glaring at me with identical expressions of disapproval. Unfortunately for them, there's only one wolf that can make me quake in my boots these days. And he's very far away. Ah, Aiden scolds, clearly reading my mind. We might not scare you, Celine, but we're making a list for Bastien when he gets home. As much as the threat makes my insides go to pure mush, just hearing that they still believe Bastien will come home comforts me. I'm not even bothered that he'll be furious when he learns everything I've been up to in his absence. As long as he's furious with me, I don't care. How? Helene. Concentrate. Celine. Helene's soothing voice instructs, focus on the magic. Forget everything else that's happening in your life right now. Easier said than done. I snort. After the scolding I received from Drake and the betas about confronting Dr. Kane without them, I shared what I learned. My information both confirmed their suspicions and shocked them, and ever since they've been locked in Bastien's office planning their next steps. To their credit, they aren't excluding me anymore, but I have so much to do between raising Lila, practicing with Helen, keeping up public appearances and puking up my guts every morning, that joining their discussions inevitably gets pushed to the bottom of my agenda. Just remember that this is the most important thing you can do to protect your family. Helene reminds me, everything else is just window dressings. I'm sure the pack would love to hear their governance referred to that way. I chuckle. You can't govern them if Blaze Denizen is drinking you like a juice box. She scolds good-naturedly. Fair point. I concede, dropping my hands in frustration, but this isn't working, because you're not concentrating. Helene observes with the sort of detached assessment I've come to expect from the ancient witch. Surely you didn't think you'd learn to bend shadows overnight. I agree with a huff, but creating energy bursts happens so naturally. I kind of thought the other stuff would come the same way once I knew how to do it. She's been trying to teach me to use this particular skill for days. It's not something normal witches can do, but Helen assures me it's not that different from transfiguring matter. Whatever that means, all I know is that she's confident this is the easiest of the abilities Odette's books attribute to Valanas. So we're starting here. Unfortunately, if she's right, and this is the easiest, I'm not too optimistic about learning the other skills. Any idiot with an ounce of power can create an energy burst. She derides, shaking her head. You have the potential to be great, Celine, but getting there is going to take a lot of hard work. I'm trying. I insist, trying to draw the shadows towards me the way she instructed. You must first draw them to you if you want them to do your bidding, she'd cryptically explained. It seems I'm doomed to only understand a fraction of what my mentor says. But as long as she doesn't mind, I'm willing to be confused and just pray some of her knowledge will rub off on me. You know the problem, Celine, she says then, studying me closely. You're afraid of the shadows. I'm not. I reply simply. I lived among them for years. Trust me, the shadows and I are old friends. She utters thoughtfully. They tortured you for years. You were never equals. Familiar is not the same thing as unafraid. I stop trying to summon them for a moment, staring at the elegant woman while she lectures. Garrick used them against you. Now you have to make them your own. You have to channel them for your own purposes. Take control and make them work for you, not against you. I throw my hands up in exasperation. How am I supposed to undo 8 years of trauma in a few days? I can't just rewrite history. Think about everything you've accomplished this week alone. Think about what you told me about all those bossy men you just faced down. She encourages, 5 years ago, even one angry authority figure would have made you collapse. But today, only the very strongest of wolves can intimidate you. You aren't that little girl Garrick tormented anymore. Show those shadows, who's boss the way you showed Dr. Kane. I have to admit she has a point. I'm not the scared little girl I used to be, and this week has proved it more than most. Bastien is going to be so proud of you when he comes home. Helene adds, making my heart swell in my chest. Don't you want to show him what you can do? It happens then without trying. All the shadows in the room flee their hiding spots to gather around me as if I'm one of their own. Swathed in darkness and studying my own shadow, kissed limbs and all in confusion. I ask, that's the trick to magic, sweetheart. Helen grins. The light calls the dark, and the dark calls the light. You just have to know how to speak their languages. Excitement swells in my chest. What else? What else can you teach me?